The NFL said goodbye to some of its favorite sons in 2019. We remember them. Bart Starr was the man who translated Vince Lombardi's vision into victory. He played in the first 2 Super Bowls and was MVP of both.
Starr looks as time goes in the end zone.
But he never took a bow, let alone the credit.
A wonderful performance in the Super Bowl.
Well, thank you very much. Al, I'm extremely delighted to be able to receive this card. If I could be permitted, I'd like to receive it in the name of the entire Green Bay Packer team.
For more than half a century, he's been beloved. Forever, he'll be iconic. Walt Michaels was an iconoclast, a head coach who told the unvarnished truth.
And until they can learn to handle the pressure of week in and week out consistency, you're going to have that problem. It's as simple as that.
He brought the pressure in the form of the New York Sack Exchange and led the Jets to their first playoff appearance in more than a decade. Bill Bidwill owned the Cardinals for nearly 6 decades and celebrated an NFC championship in 2009. Pat Bowlen had a sense of style and a way with words, summing up Super Bowl 32 perfectly in one little phrase.
There's only 4 words. This one's for John.
That was the perfect speech. Nick Buoniconti captained a perfect team, the 1972 Dolphins. It was his interception in Super Bowl VII that set up the game-clinching touchdown.
The Dolphins have won Super Bowl VII and completed the greatest season in NFL history.
Jim Langer was the center on that Dolphins team and Bob Kuechenberg the left guard. In Super Bowl VIII, the Langer and Cooch-led line put on one of the greatest displays of run blocking ever seen as the Dolphins threw only 7 passes, romping their way to victory.
And the Dolphins, if they hadn't already, have now established clear superiority in this game.
Coach Shula called a few of us off. I went toward the bench, and Don Shula came over and gave me a big hug. That was the perfect ending to a nearly perfect day.
He was known as Gino the Giant, and Mr. Marchetti lived up to the moniker. He was a force of nature on the field, ferociously fast, supremely strong. Some say the greatest defensive lineman who ever played the game.
And does he pulverize Bart Starr?
What we're trying to get is a seal here and a seal here and try to run this play in the alley.
Forrest Gregg was the Hall of Fame tackle that powered the Packers' run game. Lombardi himself called Gregg the finest player he ever coached.
Forrest executes the difficult seal-off block perfectly. Taylor gallops through the gap for a Green Bay score.
Wade Wilson played for a lot of teams, but he never played better than 1988, when he led the NFC in completion percentage.
Wade fires, end zone, touchdown, Minnesota!
We'll miss the guys with great nicknames, like Jared Lorenzen, the Hefty Lefty. The Moose from Palouse, Keith Lincoln, who tallied 329 yards from scrimmage in the 1963 AFL title game. And, of course, Howard Hopalong Cassidy, who helped the Lions to their last NFL title.
Hopalong Cassidy loops a lasso around the leather, and it's touchdown Lions.
Cedric Benson was drafted number 4 overall by the Bears, but really earned his stripes as a Bengal.
That's when Cedric Benson is at his best. He does not go down on first contact. Oh, he's a monster.
From a beast to the best ball that is, the Nerf football was invented by Fred Cox, the Vikings' all-time leader in points and inspiration.
How can you fathom that something's lasted 50 years that came into being probably in 10 minutes?
Clem Daniels knew the spark of genius too. He had a knack to know just when to cut and wound up as the AFL's all-time leading rusher.
Clement Daniels wins the foot race to the end zone.
Cliff Branch was the Silver and Black's deep threat for a decade and a half, a burner with silky moves and soft hands. Impossible to cover or forget. Just like Willie Brown, who broke into the pro game in 1963 and was still pickpocketing passes nearly 2 decades later. He ran all the way to Canton, and like all the greats, runs in our memories still.
He's going all the way!